Thank you, Dane. We are Team Pan Outreach. Our team members are Vang Zhang, John Worley, Anders Ryden, and myself, Carson Otto. Before we begin, I'll start out with just a little bit of background information here. Pictured, we have a collection of steel drums, and each individual drum is referred to as a pan. Similar to a string section of an orchestra would be comprised of violins, cellos, etc. A steel drum ensemble consists of a tenor pan, a cello pan, a seconds pan, and a bass pan. So now that we have a little bit of background information, we can ask, who is Pan Outreach? Pan Outreach was founded by Jeremy Kunkel in association with Chops Incorporated, and Pan Outreach actually originated from Jeremy's steel drum performance group known as the Panhandlers. Oftentimes, after the presentations and performances, the Panhandlers would invite audience members on stage to try out the steel drums for themselves. And after trying out the instruments, audience members were often curious how they could learn to play the instrument and just further involve themselves in the community with Pan Outreach, or the Panhandlers. So Pan Outreach was brought up to the board of directors at Chops Incorporated. And what Pan Outreach is it is a traveling school of Pan, essentially. They will go traveling to schools across the state, familiarizing students with the culture and history that embodies this instrument, as well as teaching students how to play the instrument. And during the summer, while school's no longer in session, these instruments are lended out to students who've participated in the Pan Outreach program to take to local parades and festivals and just further encompass themselves in the music environment. So as you can see, Pan Outreach has a really powerful and positive impact in our community. However, there is currently a couple challenges that they're facing, and to introduce these, I'll pass it off to John.
Thank you, Carson. Imagine this. You're part of the Pan Outreach instructional crew, and every week or bi-weekly, depending on the school that they're resident at, you have a group of students who are very excited and engaged to learn these interesting instruments. What's the problem? As many of you know, or anyone who's ever learned how to play an instrument, it is a very difficult and winding road. And you need practice and familiarity to go anywhere. And that's what Pan was realizing, that due to the infrequency of their sessions, they weren't having their students improve to the they would like. The problem being is that they couldn't have the frequency of interactions with the pans, so just get students more pans, you might ask. Well, the first problem is cost. A set of pans can be thousands of dollars each, so that kind of eliminates the possibility for getting all the students' pans. The second is, why don't we just lend the pans out? Well, as you can see to the picture to the left of me, that's probably an average fourth grader, and those are a set of base pans, and many of these kids commute either on buses or public transportation, and bringing those along may raise some red flags. So the last problem that Pan Outreach was having was just an organizational issue. Students, as many of you know, their backpacks are black holes. So they would use their sheet music and their history lessons all the time. And then the instructors who wanted to focus on interacting with the children would spend time worrying about updating sheet music. So before we launch into the demo, there's just a bit of terminology that we should go over. The steel drums, they operate on the same system that any Western classical instrument would, 12 notes in an octave. But the thing that's different about the teaching system at Pan Outreach is they like to color code things. So sheet music is usually black and white, but sheet music in Pan Outreach is color coded. So you see C sharp would be red, and G would be light blue. So for beginning students, it's way easier to tell them, hey, I need you to hit two large red outlines on the pan, which they color code, and then a G or a blue one, rather than going, hey, hit two C sharps and then a G. So to demo all of this, I'm going to pass it off to Anders.
Thank you, John. So for the first half of this demo, I'm going to be playing the role of Jeremy, the founder of Pan Outreach. As an administrator, I have a few logistics to take care of, so I'm going to go ahead and log into the admin portal. We land on the dashboard with a few options to choose from. First, I'm going to navigate over to the users page. Here is where I can add and manage users of this application. Washburn High School actually just finished their program, so I'm going to go ahead and toggle their account to inactive. They've expressed interest in joining us next summer, so if they do, we can just toggle that switch and they will be granted access again. Next, I'm going to go ahead and open up the side menu and navigate over to the sheet music page. Here, I can add, view, and edit sheet music that is available for the students on their side of the portal. This is really nice for me because it helps me stay organized and I don't have to worry about printing off music for all of my students. It's been a really busy week at Pan Outreach, so I see I've made a little mistake here. I'm going to go ahead and fix that quick. It's twinkle, twinkle, not winkle, twinkle. And great. Now that that's fixed, I'm going to go ahead and head over to the lesson plans page. Similar to the sheet music page, here I can add, view, and edit lesson plans for the students. A big part of Pan Outreach's curriculum involves supplemental lesson plans. These can be cultural disciplines, playing techniques, or history of the steel drums. And I just got back from a World Pan Festival in Trinidad, and I'd like to include a lesson plan about the history of steel drums there. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in now. I'm going to add a name and select a relevant category, and then choose the file to upload. And this can take a second or two because it's being saved on Amazon's web servers, but there it is. And that concludes the admin side of this demonstration. I'm going to be passing it off to Vang, who will walk us through the student portal.
Hi, everyone. So everybody remembers Anders, right? Because he's actually a middle school student, not a full-grown man. And he's currently attending Prime Middle School. So before the application, he was having a hard time just remembering bring his sheet lessons home or sheet music home and lesson plan. Another thing that he was forgetting to do was practice because he doesn't have easy access to the drums. Now that we have the tablet optimized application though, he can practice just about anywhere because he can bring that home and just practice at home or even anywhere that has internet. So he's going to go ahead and log in to portal, and once he's logged in, he's greeted with the student dashboard. The student dashboard has the 4 different pans that he can play, the tenor, the second, the cello, as well as the bass. But before he gets to any of that fun part, he actually is a really good student and he wants to read some of the learning materials that Jeremy talked about today in class. Now he remembers the category that Jeremy talked about. It was history. So he's going to choose that, click submit, and then he remembers the name, History of Steel Drums. Click on that icon, and that PDF file will pop up, and he can read this in his spare time. So let's say he's finished that, and now he wants to play some music, but he's actually forgotten his sheet music at school. So he can go ahead and go to the sheet music page and print out Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and have that in front of him as he's playing. So finally, once he's printed that out, he can have that in front of him. He's going to finally head over to the tenor page, and then all the actually have 2 toggles, one for color and one for notes. He can toggle these on and off depending on how comfortable he feels with playing without them, but because he's still new, he wants to keep them on so he can see the connection between the notes and the colors. And now finally we'll show you guys how this plays. So we're going to mirror this on the screen for you guys to look at and see how it plays. As you can tell, he's become a great drum player. So yeah, that's amazing. But let's give another hand of a round of applause to and maybe next time he'll be able to play without the toggles on. And with that, I'm actually going to pass it to John to further explain why these 2 applications really help Pan Outreach.
Thank you, Bang. So earlier in the presentation, I described some of the problems that we were dealing with. And then I'll just describe shortly how we solved them with our solution. we created a tablet-optimized student view with 4 virtual drums that are available to play. This cuts down on the monetary aspect of students being able to have access to the drums, because every student that we interact with is actually assigned a tablet through their program or through their school. So another obvious concern is the silence, which is taken care of because of the tablet. And then some added benefits are you can practice this whenever you want now. So used to be a problem when kids were playing drums at 11 o'clock at night. Probably wouldn't want to hear Twinkle Twinkle Little Star again. But now, put those headphones in, there's no problem. And then for the sheet music and the lesson plans, students aren't going to have problems losing it. They can dynamically search. And then they are afforded to, exploring additionally complex sheet music at their leisure. As well as from an administration standpoint, they can focus on what's really important, and that's interacting with their students. So I will pass it off to Carson with some closing remarks.
Thank you, John. We would just like to extend some thank yous. First to Jeremy and everyone at Pan Outreach for this amazing opportunity. Next, our Vega cohort. Thank you guys, and especially our instructors, Dane, Dev, Mary, and Allie. And then lastly, our audience. Thank you guys for being here, and we invite all of you to try out our application. We'll have a couple iPads on the table over there after this is concluded, and feel free to give the steel drum a shot. It's really fun. So I've been Carson Otto, Anders Ryden, John Morley, and Vang Zhang. Thank you.